Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Powerful on Purpose podcast. I'm your host, Leslie Chaps, the creator of Author in 30. Today is another episode of the author journey. Woo woo. We have been talking about the 4 decisions you need to make before you write a word. And today's decision number 4. How are we going to finish the freaking book, right? Probably one of the most important decisions that we don't think about, and it can get us into a whole heap of trouble. It can look like writer's block. It can look like all sorts of things. So we've talked about who your reader is, what the message you want that reader to take after reading your book, and the structure that gets them from who they are to who they want to be, where they are, where they want to be. But none of that matters if the book never gets finished. We make a plan for everything else, right? But often our plan is just start writing in a book. Well, that's not a plan. That never worked for me. I've worked with so many authors who follow that advice, and now we have a bunch of words, but we don't really know what to do with the words, right? So think of it like a journey, because we plan out our trips. We even plan out going to the grocery store, right? And certainly writing a book can be like going to the grocery store, but we have to have a plan for it, because I don't walk out my door and then go, wait a minute, how am I going to get to the grocery store? Am I going to walk? Am I going to take the bus? Am I going to drive? And when do I want to get there? What do I want to accomplish in between? And of course, then how am I going to get home? I know my destination. I choose a route. I choose a vehicle, but we do the exact opposite with books. Interestingly, we start writing without a clear plan of where we're going, what we want to accomplish, and the timeline. 6 months later, maybe 6 years later, we have thousands and thousands of words, and we're thinking, well, what do I do with all these words? So the first 3 decisions were really about who you're writing for. What do you want it to do for that person? What do they want the book to do? Then you have a structure that creates a journey. Now we need the vehicle. How are you going to get the book finished? So important, so overlooked. And there's no one right way to write a book. Sadly, if there was, I would be glad to tell you that. But the perfect writing system for me might not work for you. And the advice of just start writing never worked for me. Even in college, I had a professor say, you shouldn't be a writer, maybe a journalist, but not a writer, because that system didn't work for the way my brain is wired. So what we want to do is create a system that works for you, and taking into consideration things like, when is your energy highest? When do you feel the most creative? Do you need blocks of time? Do you work in 15-minute chunks? Right? All these are important decisions to make in order to make our writing be efficient. Do you like to write one whole day at a time? Pen to paper, typing. A lot of my frustration was I verbally process. So writing, my brain is 4 miles down the road and my fingers are still like, oh, wait, we didn't catch that thought. So I developed a system to use audio to text, because that works for the way that I create. Also, I like to blame my hands, because I talk with my hands. If they're not moving, somehow it's a disconnect for my brain. Figure that one out. The other thing I want you to get a license here as well is what works for you, but trying other things. I worked with a woman recently who likes pen to paper, and that works for her. And we were talking about this audio to text idea. She tried it out. She came back and she said, it didn't really work the way I wanted, but what it did was unlock some part of me. She said, I sat down after that and wrote for 2 hours. So it's also incorporating other ways to, when we get stuck, looking for ways to adjust our writing, adjust our style, unlock that creativity in us. Again, do you need accountability? Do you need support? Do you need milestones? Do you need a writing partner? What is going to make this process joyful, fast, and easy for you? And knowing yourself, how do you work best? So the best writing plan isn't the one the best-selling authors use. It isn't even the one I use. It's the one that you will follow and works for you. So if we were going to write my book into an actual plan, Let's make this more practical. Let's say you have a manuscript you want to finish 8 weeks from now, and you'll publish 8 weeks after that, right? So we need to reverse engineer that. Once you have your structure and you know how many chapters, now we have something to work with. Maybe that's 1 chapter per week, but what does it take for you to create that 1 chapter is really what we're getting at. Is it going to take you the whole week? Maybe the first week, because that's the other thing, right? The first week it takes us a week and we're like, oh, this isn't going to work. We get frustrated with ourselves. It takes a little bit of time to create the system. So allow yourself to create the system that works for you. But if we went with that, it does take us a week per chapter. Then we know, okay, I have to hit every week. So if by Friday, I don't have that chapter created, either I need to get my poop in a group and speed things up, or I need to adjust my plan going forward. So we're really creating this structure around you and how you work, how you think. Because I need to write a book versus this week I'm writing chapter 4 and chapter 5. It creates completely different experiences, right? We have milestones, we have intermittent goals that we know we're moving towards. Let's say life happens one week, you get pushed back. Now we look at the schedule and go, let's adjust this week so we get 3 chapters written and we stick on our final goal. The other thing I would say is pay attention to friction, right? If your plan isn't working, don't immediately decide you lack discipline. Look for what's causing you friction. Have I chosen the wrong time of day to write? Do I need more background research? Because maybe you built the wrong plan. If you sit at a keyboard and stare at the blank screen for 45 minutes, but you can talk once you have bulleted lists. Someone else I suggested that idea to, she came back and she said, oh, that doesn't work for me. But this idea does, right? So it's creating the system. Look for what's causing you friction. Okay, I can't do 3 chapters per week, but I could do 1 chapter per week because I don't have time, because I get too many interruptions, whatever it is. What is preventing you, the friction that's preventing you from reaching that goal? Because the goal isn't to prove that you're a real writer. We already know that. The goal is to finish the book. And how do we accomplish that in a system that works for you? My next piece of advice is set a freaking deadline, right? Here's the thing. If we don't set a deadline, it gets shoved to the side. I'll finish my book this year. I'll finish my book next year. I'll finish my book. And then it becomes an endless project that never has a deadline. It gets shoved aside. Momentum goes down. Our enthusiasm wanes. We start getting in our own head. Who am I to write this book? What do I know? What do I have to say? Who cares? All those things will prevent your book from being written. So one of my clients decided she wanted to publish her book on her birthday. Perfect, right? It gives us a runway, but it also gives her a deadline, an excitement, an event. So if you have taking a book to an event, that's perfect. But if you don't have an event, create an event. Start talking about your launch. Start inviting people to participate along with you. Set a date on the calendar. And again, we reverse engineer this, right? So she knows when she wants her book published. We'll work backwards to see when she needs to have that manuscript done, the time for cover, for editing, for formatting, all those pieces we need to have done before publishing the book. But once you set that deadline, then we can create that plan. If we have a deadline that's somewhere in the future, then what is the urgency to get a chapter done? What is the urgency to come up with a cover design? So thinking about that reverse engineering thing, it also allows us time to start talking about it. Sometimes we don't want to think about marketing our book, but the more you talk about it, the more people will be curious, the more they'll be interested in coming along for the journey. It won't be a surprise when you say, hey, I've written a book. Would you go read it? Would you give me a review? We're cultivating that journey and cultivating our audience at the same time. When we have a plan, now we have capability to be flexible, to change. If life does happen, the book evolves and we're like, oh, cranky. I got to write a whole nother chapter because this idea grew bigger. Then we have time to adapt. If you set either a deadline too close and now we're scrambling, or there is no deadline, well, I'll put that chapter aside, right? Forget about it. Then again, it not only creates uses energy in our brain, on our computer, in our time, because a plan isn't a prison, it's a route. You can take a detour without forgetting where you're going, what the end goal is. Then just adjust the plan, but don't abandon the destination. So decision 4 is really, how will you finish? What's your writing method? When will you write? What support do you need? How will you write? What are your milestones? And what's your deadline? What is the day you're saying, I'm going to, 1, have this manuscript done, 2, I'm going to publish, right? Because again, if we don't set a publish date, we get the manuscript done and then, oh, well, I'll get that edited someday. I'll get people to read it someday. I'll figure out a cover. So set both those deadlines and decide, I'm going to finish this darn thing in X amount of time. I think we get in our heads that books need to take a long time. We need to isolate ourselves. And I've really come to the conclusion that working with others is much simpler, more fun, and a process that really stirs our creative juices. So incorporating how am I going to get support along my writer journey is totally something you should think about as well. Whether you join a group, work with a coach, or just have someone who understands a little bit of that journey and can support you along the way. Because really the 4 decisions, my goal was to, once you made them, then it goes from someday I want to write a book to holy moly, I know how to write my book. I know how to get it published. I'm an author. That is the transformation we're hoping for you, is to take all that content in your head, get it out into the world where you can make an impact, you can build a mission around your message. There are people who need your story, who need your words of wisdom that will lift them up, encourage them, take them to a new place. And that is a journey worth taking yourself and taking other people along with it. So be sure and subscribe, because we'll keep bringing you behind the curtains of becoming an author. Catch you on the other side.